wait, you know what? Let's start with an introduction. Hey, I am Dr. Mark Merriwether Vorderbruggen, creator of Foraging Texas, author of Idiot's Guide Foraging, and oh, there it is. Also, co-maker of the Wazoo Survival Bandana of Foraging. Both me and Nicole, oops, where is she? Nicole Apleon worked together with Wazoo Survival. If you don't know who Nicole Apleon is, Dr. Nicole Apleon actually, you need to watch more TV. I don't, but I get to talk to her like for real life, so that's cool. But she was she was on 2 different seasons of Alone, where they dropped her off in the middle of nowhere and then she had to survive. All right, so that's me. Who else do we got? Hey, an Uncommon Bees, Laura. Whoa, Laura. Hey, Kevin and Andrew. So we got a crowd. Excellent. Remember, if you buy my book, you have to buy it from the specific link, because the way the Idiot's Guide is, I don't actually get any royalties. The only payment I get if you buy this book is if you buy it from my specific Amazon link, and then I get a 6% sales commission. But then there's also Uncommon Bees, and use the coupon code Forking Weeds there. Okay, this is really weird because like there's me here, and then there's me like 3 seconds ago there, and it's getting confusing. Oh, hey, Kyle. Melody, hey, Melody, Kiri, I said, hey, Terrence, always good, man. Tina Marie, hey, John. All right, lots of people here. So, okay, paid. Do I have a Patreon? So I've looked into the Patreon accounts, and they, as much as they talk about, letting the artist or whatever do what they want to do, they don't. They actually have a lot of editorial control over your entire life if you sign up with them, and I'm just not comfortable with that. It's hard enough to deal with Facebook and Google and all the other companies that do all the cyber, shutdowns and all that. So the best I have, and even that is PayPal. I guess I could put a link to my PayPal if you want to donate there too. Hey, Deborah. But yeah, so the Patreon account, no, I did not care for them. Okay, so it's been an interesting week. One of the big things, so last weekend I did lots of stuff, but I shouldn't say the coolest because they're all really cool, but one of the more unusual things I did was for, maybe I can do this. Let me a second here. The company Chartreuse. If you are not familiar with Chartreuse, become familiar with Chartreuse. Now, I'm not getting any money for promoting them during this show. It was a class that I taught them. Or not so much Chartreuse, but the importers of Chartreuse brought together 30 of the top bartenders in Houston, and then I taught them how to make basically Chartreusian type stuff. And you're wondering, okay, so what's the deal with Chartreuse? It's a kind of a funky green looking thing. So this stuff, it was originally created in 1605. Yeah, they fixed me up with all sorts of Chartreuse swag and stuff and hats and so forth. But the secret about Chartreuse, or it's not really a secret because it's been around since 1605, it is a source of income for some Carthusian, I always get Cartesian, the geometry, and the Carthusian, the monks mixed up, but it's the French Alp monks in the monastery. And to support the monastery, they supply the secret magic elixir. Like I said, originally from 1605, and it's been produced pretty much continuously since then. But it has 130 different alpine plant extracts mixed in with the alcohol. The original recipe supposedly was handed down by God, and supposed to be a elixir of long, long, long life, long and healthy, and definitely happy life. But 130 plants infused into this. Um, it's all secret. They won't tell you, what's in there. You can't figure that out. I have some guesses, though. In particular, I think there's probably some wormwood in there. The reason I think that, so wormwood, that is the key component in absinthe, and wormwood contains a chemical called thujone. And what thujone does is it actually interferes with your body's ability to break down alcohol. So you have this enzyme whose purpose is to chew up the alcohol. Well, this thujone gets in there and locks it up for 12 to 24 hours, depending on how much thujone you have. And so during that time, there's nothing breaking down the alcohol, and it's just building up higher and higher and higher in your bloodstream, quickly kicking your ass. The rule with Chartreuse is never do more than 3 shots in an evening. Because if you do, your brain will turn off, but your body will keep going. It has led to some interesting, yeah. So anyway, it shuts the brain off and the body keeps going. And yeah, my wife is very cautious about letting me pull this out at like Thanksgiving and so forth, because she knows what can happen if people overindulge in it. So anyway, so the importers, Frederick Wildman and Sons, they have the Central United States salesperson, whatever, located here in Houston. And so he contacted me one day and said, "Hey, we have this alcohol. You might not have heard of it, but we were wondering, it's all plant-based type stuff. And since you're a plant-based sort of guy, would you mind, hooking up and maybe we could work on a project together?" And it's like, oh yes, I am very, very familiar with Chartreuse. I've been drinking it. It's pretty much my main alcohol, like pleasure alcohol as opposed to medicinal alcohol, and there's a difference. Since 1993, I've gone through a lot of Chartreuse. Thank you, Romy Romano, for introducing me to Chartreuse, by the way. Oh, so do we? Oh, hey, Chris. Maria, bye, people. Does she? I'll have to go and read these comments. But anyway, so the importer contacted me, said, "Hey, will you do something?" And I said, "Well, how about we kind of make some Houston equivalents of it by mixing some of the plants and working with it, and just go from there. And then when I finish my part, then you can do some cocktails with it." And then we had a nice French picnic lunch sort of thing. So that was Sunday. Met with a bunch of bartenders and introduced them to some really interesting plants around Texas, or well, around Houston. It was actually held at the Houston Arboretum. We rented a room from them. And so I've been making all sorts of infusions for a long, long time. So I thought tonight I would share things with you, some things I got going on. And there's one in particular to do. Oh, yep, there it is. Okay. Starting, it's kind of hard to see here. These are the pollen bodies of pine trees. So the thing that produces that yellow powder in Texas that coats everything in the spring, those are these soaked in tequila. Let's see, tequila. So you're wondering, why would you do that? Well, if you take my classes, you hear me talk about pine pollen being loaded with testosterone. Technically, it's not quite that. It's loaded with a testosterone mimic, but it's close enough to the human body's testosterone that it fools the human body and it uses the same way it would use testosterone. So basically to be, somewhat muscle bound and quick to react, and I mean, it's stereotypical, but let's do it because, I mean, man bashing is the thing nowadays. Basically turns you into a big dumb lunk. So why not add tequila and finish the job? So, like I said, when I have to be big, brave, and just a little bit stupid, this is the thing that gets pulled out of the cabinet, and away we go. So pine or pine pollen, or the pollen bodies, the things that start producing the pine, which will be coming up, sooner than you know. Usually, late February or so, and everything gets that yellow scum. Collect that, soak it in vodka or tequila, and yeah, you'll just, double your pleasure, double her fun. All right, so that's one of them. Melanie, how young is youth? I don't know. Terrence. Oh, okay. I see. Hey, Greg. Uh, how does the pine pollen taste? Um, Kind of like protein powder. Like the weightlifter, protein powder. Just kind of, piney, proteiny sort of flavor, especially in the tequila. And when you start mixing it, like a tequila sunrise sort of thing, it pretty much disappears. So that's one thing that's really cool. And here it is in vodka. And that film there is some of the resin that I got with it. But we can move on from there. Oh, a really interesting one that hit it off was magnolia flowers in vodka. Now, the flowers are no longer in there. I've taken them out a long time ago. But in the spring, when the magnolia flowers are blooming, you can take the still closed buds, peel off the petals, chop them up, soak them in vodka, and it makes a really interesting magnolia scented and flavored, vodka. Brandy also works, but it's a really good, something to throw in that no one is going to recognize. So the magnolia flowers in vodka, and as you can see, it turns it this interesting red color, even though the flowers are white. But chop it up. Basic rule of thumb, since you're using flowers, they're very delicate, so you do not have to dry them. You just chop them up and put them fresh in the jar. And I go about, in the case of flowers, between 2 to 3 fingers of flowers, and then 3 to 4 fingers of alcohol. So basically figure, actually probably want to do like 50-50 with the flowers, just to get the good strength there. So let's just say, for simplicity's sake, just do 50-50. So fill half the bottle with the flowers and then fill it all the way up to the top with the vodka or the brandy. If you go with brandy, it'll have a slight brandy flavor too, which is really good, especially if you put a little honey in it. What else do we got going on here? Oh, speaking of honey, don't forget Uncommon Bees, a source of all bee-related goodness for everything I do. This is the only honey I use. I put the link in there, so you can order all sorts of really cool infused honeys that already have different herbal infusions in them. Good stuff. All right, Pinus remota. That sounds like a pine tree. Quick to the internet. Actually, I'll Google it, but I'm not sure which pine tree that is off the top of my head. Oh, pinyon pine, of course. Unfortunately, I don't get out to West Texas enough to eat the pinyon pine. Hey, Bruhy. So that is on my list of things to do this year, is to get out there and finally go nuts with the pinyon pine. So definitely want to try that. When I write the book on the West Texas, by then I will have a lot of experience with the pinyon pine. So, okay, where were we? Oh, and drink. This is pineapple juice and chartreuse, by the way. Okay, another thing I was doing was vodka infused with coffee. And not just any coffee. It was the Café du Monde coffee, which is coffee and chicory. So, which gives it a really, really unique flavor. I mean, it has the coffee flavor, but it also has the chicory flavor, which is, I don't want to say bitter. I mean, it's bitter, but it also has some herbal undertones, which are really good. So you make like a Black Russian out of this, and it's really, 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 really cool. Cool. It's really, really cool. You can tap your inner the dude with this. But the coffee infused vodka, just take the coffee grounds again. With coffee grounds, 2 parts coffee grounds, covered 3 parts alcohol, and in all these cases, let it soak and sit for 6 to 8 weeks. All right. What do we got here? Oop, 3 new comments. Hey, Jacqueline. Yes, coffee. Got to pass my house by an hour's drive to get to West Texas. Interesting. That might work. Okay. It's hard to see, but this is Goldenrod Flowers. It takes on an interesting green color. There we go. Okay. So Goldenrod Flowers in vodka. In this case, again, you just take a few of the goldenrod flowers. Now, remember that goldenrod flowers are the last. And we're back. Sorry, that was the answering machine. So, goldenrod flowers. Someone's actually trying to talk. Don't they know when the answering machine answers, you just hang up and try texting instead? Okay, so goldenrod flowers in vodka. Now remember, with the goldenrod flowers, they are the last food source of the bees before winter strikes. So you don't want to take a lot of them. But one of the nice things about goldenrod is throughout the year, as it's growing, if you trim it off, like prune it, like the last 5-6 inches or so, which you want to do so you can get the leaves, it will put up like 4 new stalks from that, and each one of these will produce flowers. So if you have goldenrod, prune it, you end up with 4. You take one of those flowers, leave the other 3 for bees, and they're really, really happy. So if you do that to all the goldenrod you see, you actually increase the amount of goldenrod flowers at the end of the year. But then you can make this really, really neat green goldenrod infused vodka. A few things about goldenrod. First, kids, leave the room. Yeah, this isn't a kid-friendly part. So the goldenrod flowers and the leaves have shown medicinally that they are tissue strengtheners. In particular, tissues that are designed to hold fluid. So good examples are blood vessels, especially capillaries, or the lymph system, or the sinuses. When those start leaking fluids when they're not supposed to, the goldenrod, and it takes a while, you got to be taking it for a month or more, will start toughening up those tissues, not reducing the elasticity, but kind of helping the fiber network grow again, and so only releases fluids when it's supposed to release. Varicose veins, that's a prime example of what happens when your capillaries start getting kind of weak and the blood can leak out and doesn't get back in, and you end up with these big purple worms through your legs. It's really painful. So if you're taking goldenrod tincture or goldenrod tea or goldenrod shots for several months, it will start toughening up or re-strengthening those capillaries so the blood doesn't just ooze out. And then over time, the body will reabsorb the blood that was there, and you're not constantly refilling it. So it's shown that given time, and we're talking like a year, it can actually reduce the appearance of the capillary, the varicose veins. So that's pretty cool. And then I told the kids to leave the room because the one other part, yes, Melody, both the flowers and the leaves have these abilities to strengthen the tissues. So I mentioned blood vessels, lymph, and sinuses. Like when you have a runny nose, goldenrod will actually help tighten that up some. And now your body wants a runny nose because it's trying to flush whatever out of your nose, but the goldenrod will help reduce the flow some. But those are three tissues. There's a fourth tissue in half the population that is designed to maintain a stiff, erect form due to hydraulic pressure under certain circumstances. Like I said, if you think goldenrod, yeah. So it helps with that. Kevin, are the goldenrods still potent if you wait too long and they turn puffy? So if the goldenrod flowers are starting to turn brown, that means the flowers are done. They're lost all the chemicals that you want, and they are now going on to seed production. And there's not going to be the power that you want, especially not the flavor. Hey, Wade. So, yeah, you want to get the leaves in spring and summer, and then the flowers in the fall, and it makes a really, really good flavor. Now, goldenrod, it kind of depends on your taste buds as to what flavors you're going to pick up, because there's all these molecules in there. You're not used to any of them. So your tongue and your taste buds are going to be searching out things that it recognizes and go, aha, this is that flavor. For me, that flavor is black licorice sort of flavor. To me, the goldenrod flowers and leaves have kind of a black licorice flavor. Other people go, no, it doesn't have any black licorice. It tastes like ginger or horehound or whatever, elderberry or something, whatever. But you pick up different flavors. So it's kind of interesting that way. But both the flowers and the leaves. Okay. I wish you could have seen this at the beginning. But this is mimosa flowers that have been soaking in vodka. And then in the spring, I'm going to take young leaf. I'm going to strain out the flowers and then put in young fresh leaves and also some older mimosa bark into this. Over time, it will be equal amounts. So I know how much of the mimosa flowers I added, and then I'll add that much of the young leaves and also the old bark. And the combination is an anti-anxiety elixir, if you will. Not as good as the Passiflora incarnata, the flowers, but still really good, and the flavor is really, really, really good. So, like I said, for the most part, I'm rarely anxious, and if I am, it's not usually a time where I can have a shot of vodka, but your mileage may vary, and I really want to see just what other effects it has on people, aka me, as far as its effects on me. So I'm just really curious for a scientific point of view. Now, as good as the flowers smell and as good as this alcohol smells, the warning is that you really want all three of those parts of the mimosa tree, the flowers, the young leaves, and the old bark, because independent of each other, they have some odd effects that aren't exactly pleasant. One understanding from what I've been reading about the research and so forth, the mimosa flowers themselves will just kind of make you loopy and goofy and really impair your judgment, which if you're already doing vodka, as I tell my kids, only do one stupid thing at a time. So every time you add another stupid thing, the risk of disaster happenings triples. So with one stupid thing, you have about a 30% chance of, well, 33, we'll say 30% chance of disaster happening. Two stupid things at the same time, you now multiply them together and you have a 90% chance of something bad happening. If you're doing three stupid things at the same time, now it's up to 270% chance of something bad happening. So that's why rather than mess around with just the flower extract, I am going to wait till I have the leaves and the old bark. The old bark taken from some trees. There's a place I know where they prune these, and so I will be able to get some bark then. Okay. Ooh, this is a nice one. This is orange blossoms in vodka. There's some of the orange blossom pollen at the bottom that I didn't filter out. Not because there's some medicinal property or something like that. It's just I was lazy and didn't feel like going through the effort to get that little bit of powder out because it really doesn't affect anything. But the orange blossoms, these are from my Satsuma oranges. If you follow me regularly, you saw me post about them earlier this week or last week. Really good thing. But in the spring, I have 2 of these trees, which is way more oranges than we can eat. And so I go and take about yay many flowers and throw them in the jar and then fill it up with vodka and wait 6 to 8 weeks. And now I have a really nice orange blossomy vodka thing going on. So if you are familiar with orange blossom scent, the perfume, it's vodka that kind of tastes like that. Ooh, and one of the things it goes really well with, now this isn't a wild plant, this is ginger vodka, where I took shaved up ginger, just used a carrot peeler and shaved it up and threw it in vodka and let it soak. And now I have a ginger vodka, which is really good in tea on cold winter nights. And I've been talking about this for a while, so let me, okay, Serenity. Hey, Serenity, thank you so much. Okay, people, Serenity, awesome person. Thanks to her, I will be able to take my family to the Renaissance Festival this year, which is one of my most favoritist things to do. I've been going to Renaissance festivals since the 82, something like that. But yeah, so yeah, books. This is a good time to talk about books. So I actually pulled out my drinking books here. So let's start with the Wild Crafted Cocktail by Ellen Zakos. And I should note, if you go to my Foraging Texas Amazon store, so www.amazon.com/shop/foraging Texas, you will go there, and there's a new column called Drinking in the Wild or something like that. But it's obviously what we're talking about. But anyway, so Ellen Zakos, she's amazing over in Alberta or Albuquerque. I wonder if she's probably not here tonight. She goes to hey Stefan. Oh boy, Stefan, now you're gonna know all my secrets. Okay, so the Wild Crafted Cocktail by Ellen Zakos. This is if you want to take all these great wild plants around you and make really interesting cocktails. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get there we go. So just pages upon pages. You can see this is a well-loved book. I have all sorts of things I've been trying and so forth, but it basically teaches you how to taste the plants around you and then how to think about how to incorporate them in cocktails, both recreations of standard cocktails as well as creating your own custom cocktails. Another really good book along that time is Wild Drinks and Cocktails by Emily Hahn. She is a famous New York forager. She supplies many of the upper level New York restaurants with their foraged foods for all their dinners. And again, you can see very, very well loved. Similar to the Ellen Zakos book, it's just a bunch of wild and landscaping plants like hawthorn and rose elixir. Or evergreen. So oxymel, that's a mixture of alcohol and apple cider vinegar and honey and stuff like that. So really, really, really good recipes there. Wild drinks and cocktails. In particular, these are ones that are really easy to make at punch bowl size amounts. So it's good if you have a Christmas party or a Thanksgiving party and you want to get your people just plastered. So Wild Drinks and Cocktails by Emily Hahn. And again, all these are available through the Foraging Texas show. Foraging Texas and drink. The Foraging Texas shop on Amazon. Okay, another really good one is Handcrafted Bitters. And I actually ran out of Post-it notes, but this, I've been going through this. Bitters are often the key component that turns a cocktail from pretty good to, whoa, that was cool. So this teaches you the art of blending different flavors, because usually bitters are not just one herb in one alcohol. They're often a mixtures of different herbs and some sugars and salts and things like that. And so this goes through and kind of walks you through the creation of your own custom bitters by using a bunch of plants that you may have access to. So you build the bitters and then you make the drinks. So very, very cool. And I believe Ellen Zakos is coming out with a bittering book too. I know she's had some really great articles online. Okay. Another one is the Wildcraft Brewer. And if you are, I keep talking about Pascal Baldor because he's awesome. He has several books out, but his real niche is fermentation. And so taking all sorts of wild plants and mixing them with wild yeasts and seeing what happens. And usually what happens is a good 90% of the time, something amazing and magical and unreproducible sort of forest drink is created. And occasionally you get a bad one. But the Wildcrafted Brewer, again, look at all those Post-it notes. Just all sorts of amazing things like, who wouldn't like woodsy mushroom beer? I'm actually talking to someone about making a version of this. Let's see, Southern California root beer. Now, a lot of these places, he's based in Los Angeles area. I'll actually get to see him in January. Going out there for my wife's family reunion, and I'm going to sneak off. Anyway, the Wildcrafting Brewer, really good. I tell people, if you are, for some reason, heading to prison, you need to have this book to read in advance, because it basically tells you how to make alcohol from fruit and air. So, if you're in a place where, being able to make, 3.5% alcohol drinks, this would be a handy one to have there. But wait, there's more. Oh, and there's gravity. My arch nemesis. Okay, another one is Brewing Local, American-grown beer by Stan Harmonious. If you brew beer, and you read about brewing beer, you probably know this guy. But in the early days of North America, every little town, every little bar, every little farmhouse had their own beer. But nowadays beer is wheat, barley, hops, and water and yeast. Back in the early days, they made it out of whatever they happened to have around. So, oops. I don't know if you can see this. This is hard. There it is. Okay. Technical editor, Jason Perkins, Mark Merriwether, Vorderbruggen. So a lot of the section on the wild, where is it? Oh yeah. Well, so there's like a section on roots, and so I contributed a bunch to that. And basically, this gray section where he talks about the different types of wild plants, I was involved in all that. So basically, if you have a starch, you have the makings of beer. And so this is how to make beer from all those plants you never realized you could make beer from. But if you're like me, beer requires a few more steps and you just want to make wine. So there's 100 recipes for making wild wines. This is at home. This is my go-to book for when I'm making wine nowadays. So it has, like blueberry port. It has a lot of the standard sort of plants, but it also tells you how to measure the sugar. I'm trying to think here. Oh, yeah. So like chapter 6, the roots, leaf stem, flowers. That's the section that I dwell on most. All sorts of different things you can throw in there to change the flavors and characters of your wine. Let's see. And then finally, The Drunken Botanist, the plants that create the world's great drinks. Not so much a cocktail recipe book, but more all the different plants and herbs that go into the gins and the amarettos and everything else that gives it these unique flavors and occasionally an interesting punch. So, just if you're more of a botanist sort of thing, and you want to learn about all the cool plants that go into making cool drinks, The Drunken Botanist is the one you want there. And like I said, all these books I posted, I think in the link there way back. Anyway, and I'll post it again afterwards. Carrie, let's see. How do you age the mimosa bark? Or Kathleen, sorry, Kathleen. So I don't, the tree does. When I say aged or old mimosa bark, I find a branch, about yay big or bigger. That's been pruned, and then shave the bark off that and just throw it in the drink. Chop it up, grind it up. If Mrs. Weather isn't home, into the blender it goes, but usually she's home. So there's that. But chop it up, almost like making, chop it up into oatmeal sized bark and throw it in there. Okay, sorry, I'm reading and answering questions. Oh, good, Andrea, you've actually made some shrub drinks. Okay, so Benny, old mimosa bark refers to live bark that has been on the tree for a long time, like not just the fresh branches at the tip. You want some bark that has been around for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, something like that. If a mimosa tree is being cut down, you would take it near the base, where the oldest is going to be. But again, like I said, you want to get it from branches that are at least 3 inches in diameter. Because the old bark, it's been, it grows each year, but it has more of those compounds in it than the fresh green stuff. The fresh green stuff, its main purpose is to just protect the plant while the branch is growing, and so it's more putting energy into making the plant longer, the stem longer, whereas the older bark is more the protective, just protect the tree, and usually the protective parts are where the interesting chemicals are. Yes, Jessica. So we are going going to Renfest, the Thanksgiving Friday. Terrence, speaking of wild recipes, I had some pawpaw bread seasoned with ground persimmon seeds and topped with roasted Ozark chinca pins. Oh man, you are drooling. Jonathan Justice. No, I'm not familiar with Jonathan Justice. Is he a Houston area or Texas area chef? I need to track this fellow down because that pawpaw bread with ground persimmon seeds and roasted Ozark chinkaping sounds absolutely amazing. I want some. Let's see, what else do we got? Reading through. Well, it's 8:42 already. Okay. All right, and drink. So what else do I have? Oh, so I talked about Goldenrod Flowers. Now, this is Goldenrod Flowers in brandy with honey. And Uncommon Bees honey, to be exact. The jar is kind of sticky. I made a lot of this. I have several jars of this because it's so good. Another good thing, you can throw this in your tea because you got the honey going on in there, and so it'll sweeten the tea. Really, really, really good. Really, anything that you tincture in brandy is usually improved by a bit of honey. Now, secret when you're adding honey. So you want to infuse the goldenrod flowers in just the brandy, 6 to 8 weeks, and then strain them out and then add the honey in. If you add the honey in at the beginning, it is almost impossible to strain everything out, and it just turns into a big mess. So infuse the flowers into the brandy, and after you take the flowers out, after 6 to 8 weeks, then add the honey in. Much better results that way. All right, let's see. Is there anything else I might have missed? Okay, if not, what else do we... Oh, bum, bum, bum. Cedar and Everclear. So in particular, this was actually a mixture of cedar wood and fresh red cedar leaves, kind of crushed up. Now, the whole bum, bum, bum thing was because in this, remember when I was talking about the Chartreuse and thinking one of the things it had in it was the thujone, which interferes with the body's ability to break apart alcohol, to get rid of alcohol? Well, the red cedar tree, Juniperus virginia, the leaves contain a small amount of thujone. So if you infuse the leaves into an alcohol and you drink some, you now lack the ability to break down alcohol for 12, 16, 18, 24 hours. If you take too much thujone, it will damage your liver. And quite frankly, when it finally releases the enzymes and the enzymes can start chewing up the alcohol again, suddenly you're going to have this massive amount of alcohol that it all hits the liver at once and starts breaking apart. And that's not all that good for the liver either. But that being said, a small amount of this pretty much triples the power of all the other alcohols that are consumed in conjunction with this. So if you ever go about making a red cedar leaf infused alcohol, use it extremely sparingly, like no more than a dropper full. And the first time, probably only half a dropper full, just to see what happens. Because one of the things with wild plants is when you're making all these combinations, there's no real good way of measuring the amount of active ingredient that ended up in it, except by trial and error. And if you're messing around with thujone, the error part can be pretty severe if you overdo it. So this is one of those things where you take a little bit and then do your normal thing and see how you feel, and then maybe the next time when you're going out, take a little bit more and see what happens there, and just kind of figure out with your batch just how much you need to get just the right amount of cheap dateness, if you will. So the cedar, in the case, the red cedar, that's the one that's basically found in Houston all the way up into New York, not the hill country cedar. The hill country cedar does not have the thujone. You need the red cedar. That is the single trunk, big Christmas tree looking cedar that grows around this area. Okay. He's from Missouri. Yeah, so Melody brings up a good point, how to roofie your drinks. So the thujone and the Everclear, this knowledge it's out there. And one of the things I have warned my daughter is if you're at a party and someone hands you a drink, damn well better smell it to make sure you don't smell any cedar, because that cedar does have a potent odor. Because if they, the cedar is in there, they may be trying to get you way more drunk than you think you would get from the drink. So it's something, to make your kids aware of. Please don't use this knowledge for evil. I would feel really bad. Hey, Tammy. And drink. All right. So I got a few other things. What else do I have here? Oh, another one. So this is Cleavers. Velcro weed. Oops. Everything's backwards. Okay. Picks up an interesting red color. So cleavers, those are the things, those long, stringy, clingy, creepy, viney like things. Absolutely loaded with vitamin C. Also a fairly powerful diuretic. Diuretic just means it makes you pee a lot. So it was considered a really good medicine for clearing out toxins, flushing toxins out of the body, by peeing a lot. Because you're drinking water, you're peeing a lot, so you're flushing out your kidneys, you're flushing out your bladder. Generally a good thing. So the cleavers help with that. But also the vitamin C, and it has a really neat herbal flavor to it that I like. So it has some things there. There might be some other medicinal properties, like in the lymph system, helping flush that out too. I'm still doing research on that. That's what I've been told, but I need to see more data before I feel confident with that. All right, what was this one? Oh, it's a little dusty. Whoops, I don't know if you can see it. Anise and vodka. So star anise. Again, kind of a black licorice vodka blend. You can take kitchen herbs and infuse them in alcohols. If you want a sage flavored alcohol or a rosemary or any of those things, they actually will infuse well. So Karen, what alcohol? So the cleavers were infused in vodka. Yeah. So just the cheapest vodka you can find. If I'm infusing with brandy, I actually want a good flavored brandy. But if I'm infusing something in vodka, I will just get the Mr. Boston's vodka that's a gallon for $9 sort of thing. Let's see, what else do we got going? What else? I'm just scrolling back. Is there anything? Okay. Justin, you warn about consuming Juniperus Virginia because of the thujone. How is that different? Okay, just again to refresh, the thujone interferes with the body's ability to break down ethanol, and so your blood alcohol count just shoots up because none of the alcohol is being taken from your body. So it's all just building up and building up and building up in your blood. So I mean, yeah, it got me through grad school, but in general, you need to be careful there. Oops, that's okay. Let's see, what else do we have? Oops, a new comment. Envy Earth. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah, Stefan, Envy Earth. Yeah, so I might be doing some work with them to the point where he wants to buy me a bunch of equipment and so forth. So we'll see what happens there. Laird's Applejack. Wade Phillips, I'm assuming the low tolerance is a side effect. What's the goal with cedar? To be a cheap drunk. I mean, it's just especially right now when I'm unemployed, a little bit will go a lot longer. And drink. But as far as health benefits and so forth for cedar, there's some antibiotic, antifungal sort of things, but mainly it's just to stretch out the alcohol. Like if you're going to go, did you see, what was it, Bud Light or something came out with the 99 pack case of Bud Light? And I can think of no better reason for making some infused alcohol than if you're going to go drink 99 cans of infused or Bud Light. What else do we have? Okay, Freddie, Mustang or Muscadine wine, which is better? By far, Mustang grape wine is a much better wine than the Muscadine. The Muscadine, it's very sweet, tastes great raw, but the wine from it, it's just sweet and not very complex, kind of bland. The Mustang, those are very acidic grapes, acidic to the point where if you eat them raw, you get chemical burns on your lips and throat. But when you make a wine out of it, those natural acids and other compounds in there result in a much richer, more flavorful wine. So hands down, the Mustang grapes over Muscadine. Pabst Blue Ribbon. PBR, a drink of hipsters. And drink. All right, what else do we got here? I wonder if Tad Meyer showed up. He was an old friend of mine from like kindergarten through high school. If you're watching, Chad, say, sorry. If you're watching Tad Meyer, say hi. Well, my dad hasn't shown up tonight either. Probably a good thing, huh? All right, 5 minutes left. What other questions do you have tonight? Okay, Andrew, put these jars of alcohol and plants in the darkest place or someplace light. Okay. Yeah, you want to store anything, any plant extracts, you want to keep out of sunlight. Sunlight, even through the windows, has the ultraviolet light. You know how your couch and furniture and paintings on the walls and stuff like that fade? The ultraviolet light is really damaging to the compounds in the alcohol too, and destroys them, destroys the flavors, destroys any medicinal benefits. So definitely keep them in a dark place, a cabinet or a closet or someplace out of direct light. I do know Ball, the makers of the canning jars, sell an amber jar now, but it's a little bit pricey, and so I just go with the standard jar and put it in a dark place. Two more. Yeah, it's hitting me. It's been a long week. So, yeah, rebuilding is tough. Karen, what am I drinking? I'm drinking pineapple juice. Oops. With chartreuse. This was left over from the thing I did for Chartreuse this week. Not the bottle. This is my own bottle that I had before, but they were just making Chartreuse pineapple drinks, and it was really good. And when I left, they gave me some cans of this stuff along with the swag. It was 1605 Chartreuse. Cold remedies. Elderberry. Okay. So, Jessica, by far, elderflower is going to be the best thing for cold remedies, just because remember, elderflower and the berries both work, stimulate the immune system to release the more white blood cells. So more white blood cells, and they show up more quickly. And that's the thing that goes and attacks the invading species, the viruses and the bacteria, depending on the type of infection. So elderberry flower or elderberry berries, usually in brandy. I like the flavor in brandy. But then you can mix it with the goldenrod flowers just to help with the runny nose aspect of it. But definitely the elderberry berries and flowers for cold and flus and really any sort of wintertime infections. All right, what else do we got going on here? I don't know. 2 more minutes. Words of wisdom. Don't drink and drive. That's, doing that whole stupid thing. Okay, Melody, what do you do with your post-extracted flowers, leaves, and herbs? They all go into my compost. I have, multiple compost piles, but they just go right in there. I mean, I squeeze, actually, I use a French press to get most of the fluid out, and then I'll put the leaves and stuff in some cheesecloth and then squeeze those to squeeze the last bits of alcohol-y goodness out of them, and then dump it in the compost. You should never throw this stuff out. You should always compost. I wonder, I don't have a worm compost anything. I don't think worms would really like alcohol-soaked plants, though. Anything with hackberries. I personally have not done much with hackberries in alcohol, but if you just grind them up and boil them, they make kind of a almond milk sort of thing going on. That's kind of good. So use them more as a flavoring agent, like some some hackberry milk in your tea. All right. Many dry noses with blood this weather. Any suggestions? Ooh, dry noses. That's a toughie. Trying to get the body to ooze stuff. No, I'm sorry. I really don't know. I don't have any suggestions for dry noses. Um, Other than constantly keep a pot of boiling water on your stove to at least increase the humidity level in the house. Not too much though, because you don't want the wallpaper to fall off. Other than that, some Vaseline or chapstick or beeswax or something, just to coat the surfaces. Okay, folks, it is 9 o'clock. Thank you all for coming. I hope you got something out of tonight's show. We will be back next week. Me and you, most of you. You're all the regulars here. So, yeah, we'll see you next Thursday. Until then, stay warm, stay healthy, be friends. Okay. Oops, one more comment. Oh, good. You enjoyed it. Ooh, marshmallow. Oh, okay, Karen. Yep. She's good. Okay. Thank you, Karen. Mucilaginous materials. Okay, we're going to go a little extra tonight. So, yeah, so the marshmallow root is really good. Slippery elm, the prickly pear cactus pads, but in general, anything that has that mucilaginous sort of thing will help soothe. Now, I'm not completely sure it will, if you consume it, if you swallow it, if it's going to do anything to get to your nose, but it's worth a shot. But other than that, I don't know. Okay. Oh, thank you, Kathleen. Thank you. Yep. Cheers to everyone. I got lots to do yet tonight. So until next week, love you all and happy drinking. All right. Bye bye.